Hey guys, Dr. Prometheus here. You might be asking me, well, why is franchise up in MLB the Show 22 and why are the Cubs here? I thought we were only doing a Road to the Show right now. Well, the answer, or not a Road to the Show, but a March to October. The answer is I got a roster with Seiya Suzuki in it. And so we're going to go through, as this is the reveal itself. I know I've said this a couple times, but also this will be our franchise for MLB 22. Will be the Chicago Cubs. One of the teams that I would say in a division are probably the fourth best team, maybe third. The Reds are on the come up, and the Pirates, well, they're the Pirates. The biggest thing is the Brewers and the Cardinals are be the biggest ones with the division. Also, we have to deal with some of those guys over in the other divisions, like the Padres, the Dodgers, and some of those guys. And gone is the time of Chris Bryant, who went over to the Rockies this season, Rizzo, who elected to stay in New York with the Yankees, and Javi Baez, who was traded to the Mets and ultimately signed a massive contract with the Detroit Tigers. And so that kind of shows that we're in a rebuild, but maybe not as big of a rebuild as I thought. So, going through the rosters. The Japanese phenom, Seiya Suzuki. We're ready. I'm excited to see what he can do in this franchise. And there's baseball is entertaining when you have players, especially international players, come in and test themselves against the MLB. And it is amazing. The Seiya Suzuki actually picked the Cubs to come over. I wish that Shohei Ohtani had picked the Cubs, but LA is kind of the way to go. In this, I've kind of edited the roster a little bit because of the fact with this roster, it has Kota Senga, who in real life has an opt-out clause after this year for the MLB. So he's going to be playing one more year in Japan. We're going to play this as a fictional idea that contract was not signed and whoever brings him in can bring him in. In the roster, he was a 99 overall. I bumped him down to an 84 to allow him to have some growth. In that, it probably wasn't the best thing to do, but I didn't want him being a 99 overall and watching it dominate. Kazama Okamoto here at 25 years old, another Japanese phenom. I tried to Google him. I don't know much about him other than the guy's an absolute stud in hitting. So we're going to see him, and a team is likely going to pick him up and see what happens. So rules for this one, we cannot sign either of these players unless they are free agents at the end of this year. But those are two added Japanese phenoms, as well as Seiya Suzuki. So, the roster from there. In the pitching department, Marcus Stroman comes over from the Mets. There's kind of a rush in the contract, probably not worth the $23.7 million a year. However, I think the lockout really forced the Cubs to overpay and get the deal done quickly. So, Stroman comes in. From New York, you have Kyle Hendricks. He's going to be an opening day starter here, doing what he does. Well, he's a bounce back season this year. Wade Miley, who was brought in at 35 years old. Really long-time vet. Coming over from Cincinnati. Bounced around a couple times. I mean, he has to come up and start. Another thing we're going to have is we're going to play with 3 injuries that the Cubs in real life are dealing with right now. And that for Adbert Alzolay is out until May 1st with a shoulder injury. So we're going to put him down at Single A, and we will be able to actually call him up in May from there. We'll have Alec Mills kind of in our pitching rotation here. I've seen him do great things. He did in real life pretty good. A combined no hitter with the bullpen last year. One of the highlights to last year, while the Cubs failed in multiple aspects, but one good spotlight there. Robert Gieselman also coming over from the Mets. He's being regulated down at AAA and will likely see some MLB ball later down the line. Braylon Marquez, younger guy, we're going to have him down at AAA. We'll see what he can do there. Justin Steele, with the injury to Adbert Azalea, will likely be the one that picks up that spot. And we'll have Juice Smiley in the bullpen. Everyone else is going to be kind of trying to develop down at AAA or AA. And that's how we'll kind of go through that. In the relief pitching, Chris Martin, 35 years old, comes over. Cody Hauer, who actually is out for the season during the lockout period, if you didn't know, actually messed up his throwing arm, I think it was. And it was one of the concerns during the lockout period for a lot of teams of players getting injured and trying to work out, which would traditionally be a time for essentially a mini camp of sorts before you go into spring training. You have expended like spring training to allow players to get more acclimated so they don't hurt themselves. In this, Cody Hauer was throwing and actually injured himself. This real life here, had to have Tommy John surgery. So he will be out for the 2022 season. We'll call him up at the end of next season and we will play it like that. So we won't have him in the bullpen. David Robertson coming over from Tampa Bay, kind of bouncing around as a closer or as a relief pitcher, but was a closer with the White Sox and the Yankees for a couple of years. And we're going to have him as our closer for right now. Michael Gibbons coming over from Colorado. If you don't know anything about him, Mr. Hurricanes franchise with the Rockies. Well, Michael Gibbons is a beast in that, and we'll see what he can do from there. One thing I did is Scott Efris is actually on the opening day roster at a 55. We're not going to paint ourselves with that, so we replaced him with Eric Yardley coming over from the Brewers. We'll see what he can do. Not great last season, probably why the Brewers kind of allowed him to leave, but we'll see what he can do. Jesse Chavez back for another stint with the Cubs at 38 years old. He's been on the Cubs quite a few times. 2018, I think 2016, he was also in the Cubs. So he's spent a couple of stints with the Cubs here, and he is back probably to finish off his career. Everyone else kind of developing at AA and AAA. Tegan Thompson down here at AAA, and we'll kind of go with that. Closers, Warner Wick is up in the bullpen, but at least at this point, we're not going to use him as a closer. We're going to use Robertson, and so he'll be up there. Jonathan Holder in real life, actually, I think another injury on his throwing shoulder, working into rehab in real life, I believe. Hasn't been cleared to throw, but we're going to start him down at AAA to start the season. And Brooke Callaway is our other closer. Nothing to write home about. In the catchers, Willson Contreras, Yan Gomes up here as a tandem with the universal DH in the National League now. Days where Willson Contreras is real life now. Days where Willson Contreras needs a day off, but they still want his bat in a lineup. He'll end up being the DH for those days. Yan Gomes, another good catcher that can hit, but also can catch very well. Ends up allowing the Cubs to keep Contreras in the lineup while giving Contreras his legs and some knees some breaks from playing catcher day in and day out. Other than that, we have nothing developed behind this, and it's kind of worrying, especially if we have some injuries. First baseman Frank Swindle coming over, I think from KC. Maybe he spent some time over with the Brewers last year, maybe. I don't really remember where he came from, but 29 years old. He's going to be our first baseman, and we're going to start it with that. Alfonso Rivas made the opening day roster. Here, he'll be backing him up. Other than that, again, after Rizzo leaving, we need to figure out what we're going to do at this position long term. I think second base is the biggest thing. Nick Madrigal coming in from that trade. He is healthy now, coming off an injury. I think it was a lower body injury off that, or it might have been a shoulder, but cleared to play coming into this season, and he will be our second baseman. One thing that is unfortunate, David Bodie is going to be out till June. He was put on a 60-day DL March 19th, and we're going to say he cannot play until June 1st. So we're going to be without David Bodie, and we'll see what we can do until then. I think real life it was a shoulder injury for him. So he hasn't been cleared to throw shoulder surgery, I think he had. So he's recovering from that during spring training, and we'll see him in real life in a couple of months. Other than that, kind of developing some players down here. I like James Trinos, 19 years old, see potential. I mean, 6'1", plays second base, could also play anywhere in the infield. I like that development piece there. Vargas will be the one that we have to call up if we have any injuries. Out of Venezuela, pretty good player, real life, for a guy off the bench for pitch hitting or anything like that. So we will hopefully not have to call him up, but Nick Madrigal will be the one heading up there. At third base, the old phenom, old for MLB purposes, 30 years old. It's Patrick Wisdom, and we're going to see what he can do. I love playing with him last season. I think we played with him a little bit in the Blue Jays franchise, and we're going to have some fun with him being our everyday third baseman. Jonathan Villar is brought in for a DH spot, but also to get any of the guys in the infield a rest, but also can play center field. So Villar is going to be popping in and out of the lineup. But after that, nothing to write home about. We do have Christopher Morrell, who is very intriguing. A guy that could play anywhere in the infield besides first and anywhere out in the outfield. I mean, the real question is, where can't this guy play? And I'm really excited to see what he develops into. He's going to be starting at AAA at 22 years old. Chase Strumpf, the guy that we normally would see develop a lot higher. Not a big potential in that. We're going to have to see how it is. Remember, the rules that we're going to have is all-star players down at AAA and below. At the end of the season, I look at those players, and if they were all-stars in the all-star break, from there, we will end up bumping their potential up by 5 until they get up to a B. And then from there, a 75 to 80 is all up to them on performance. I really like that idea. Allows players that are a deep potential to become relevant in the roster around the league if they perform very well. So hopefully we'll see that from Chase Strumpf. And at the end of the year, I go through all the teams to do that, not just me. So I go through all of the rosters from there. I write them down, and then from there I go through and I increase their potentials. Shortstop Nico Horner, 24 years old. We need him to play some good ball, and he did for his limited time last season, and so we need more of that from him. I mean, it really goes with him. He is the one that's taking over for Baez. Him and Madrigal taking over from that portion. But really, after Baez, the Cubs have really struggled, and figuring out a tandem that plays short and second ever since, was it Addison? And I don't think it was Addison. It was between Baez and that 2016 team. looking at it right now. It was yeah, it was Addison Russell was his name, so I was close enough. I mean, ever since that tandem and Addison Russell and Javi Baez playing that second and third, or second and short, I mean, the Cubs really haven't had a tandem like that. So hopefully the tandem between Madrigal and Horner, two good infielders, young, one's 25, one's 24. I mean, we could have some development and some good stuff from these guys. And hopefully we can see some development in a tandem like Baez and Russell. We'll kind of see how that goes. Aldrin Simmons was brought in because of the injuries, but also has some depth. He's going to be seeing some time as a DH as well. After that, nothing to write home about. I mean, Reginald, Prasadio, Kevin Made, far off from what you would consider MLB baseball, but they could develop in that. So we'll keep an eye on them. Out left field is going to be Ian Happ as the starter, the switch hitter. The guy, I love his ability to play all over the field. And we saw him in both of our Oakland Athletics and our Blue Jays franchise really turn it on when it comes to development. So as a switch hitter, an everyday bat in the lineup, I think he's going to kind of excel, especially with the fact that he can play all the outfield positions and a couple infield. Clint Frazier, who comes over from the Yankees. I mean, this was a signing to bring another bat in the lineup, trying to prepare and develop and see exactly what we have for the new universal DH being adopted in the National League. Cole Rotier, who was a good player in spring training this season, but with how well other players did play, I mean, he's going to be down at AAA to start the season. Only 22 years old, so nothing to worry about there. Still going to develop, be potential. I think he can be up in those 70s by the end of the season. So maybe he takes a step up in the look. I mean, kind of the odd man out because of Seiya Suzuki signing and things like that, but I feel like he could develop into a good player. Other than that, deep potential, and who knows after that. Center field, Jason Hayward is going to be playing here at 32 years old. Definitely past his prime, but one of the leaders on the team. We'll see exactly what he can do, especially against righties. He's going to be a good hitter. Against lefties, he may struggle, but hey, we'll see what he can do in the long run. Typically, I have some success with him, especially hitting homers, but only time will tell there. Rafael Ortega, at 30 years old, bounced around the league a lot. Found some time with the Cubs and batted .291 last season in 103 games after all of those trades. And well, real life gets the opening day leadoff role. For us here, we're going to take a different approach, and he's going to be playing off the bench to start. Brandon Davis, another great development piece here. I'm really excited to see what he actually develops into. Good contact hitter, 22 years old, A development. I think he's going to be up in the 70 to mid 70s by the end of the year. He is also our lone top 100 player prospect, in the MLB. This is the only one we have, which really shows how depleted our farm system is in both trades, but also the fact that a lot of the Cubs farm system was promoted. They're the ones starting at this point, and so there's a lot of turnover, and the Cubs historically have struggled with drafting both pitchers and a lot of field players recently. So you have a couple of big pieces, but like Pete Crow Armstrong was a first round pick last season. He's going to take some time. Kristen Franklin's up here. Kevin Alcantara was a trade. Alexander Canario, another trade. So trying to get at least the outfield fixed in the prospect department. Moving over to the right field, typically you see Jason Hayward over here, but with the recent signing of Seiya Suzuki, gets me excited. I'm really excited to hop into this, especially now with the Japanese phenom, and we'll see if he is, or if he can actually be as good as Shohei Ohtani. If you don't know, Ohtani in our March to October actually leads the AL in RBIs. So that is insane. Other than that, Nelson Velasquez, another guy, is going to be down at Double A, and we'll see how he develops there at 23 years old. He might quickly find himself up to Triple A. But other than that, not much to write home about. Deichmann brought over from the A's last year off waivers. So get him in, deep potential, 26 years old. I mean, you're not asking for much with that. So let's look at our pitching rotation right now. Kyle Hendricks will be the opening day. And mind you, in real life, you actually have opening day be the 7th here because the first week was not done. So we have a couple of games to play before that. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up playing this as Cincinnati's opening day. So we'll play this with Hendricks. And of course, we'll be back with Hendricks again here. So technically opening day at home for this. One thing I also did in this is I'm going to physically be scouting at this point. So I'm going to be doing that personally as opposed to it being automatic. I'll do that between episodes on there. And so we'll have more control and we'll see exactly what we can get. And I might check and see if there's another scouting approach we can do to see what players we can get. Budget, we're not over budget too much. The first season, we're probably going to be hovering around 175 million. And that will probably be the mark we try to stay around until we can get competitive. But Hayward's contract at 23 million. I mean, that is absolutely massive. But there's some guys under team control like Ian Happ. Scrolling down here, Chris Martin is still in arbitration. But 35 years old, he's probably on the wrong side of retiring at that point, for us at least. Team control with Gieselman. So we have some team control around here, but we have to think about what we're going to be doing long term with this roster. I mean, looking at it, we're 29th in center field, 19th in left, and right we're 5th. Seiya Suzuki's pretty good. At short with Nico Horner, we're 6th. 22nd with Madrigal, but I think that's going to go up quickly. Swindle at first, at 20th. At third base, Patrick Wisdom, 12th. Willson Contreras, 6th. And our closer and bullpen is not great at relief pitching. And our starters are on the wrong side of 30 for the most part. So let's look at the rotation. Kyle Hendricks leads off this year. Marcus Stroman, Wade Miley, Alec Mills, and Justin Steele will be our starting 5. Drew Smyly will be the long reliever in the bullpen. Chris Martin, Runner Wick, Eric Yardley, Jesse Chavez, Michael Gibbons will be in the setup role. I believe only the first setup gets innings here, so we'll see if this actually fixes that part or if we overwork Gibbons. We'll see. And then David Robertson will be the closer. For the lineup here, we're going to have, remember, there is no, it's universal DH, so these two don't matter with the no DH. Everyone has DHs going into this year, and so we have the same thing in that. And I also kept the rule for the runner on second in extra innings. I think that was abandoned this past year, but we're going to keep it because it kind of limits how long a team, how long games are. So we'll do it for the sake of us. So the opening day roster. I think he is a right-hander. He is. Tyler Mahle, we're familiar with him. So it's going to be right-handed with DH. So Nick Madrigal will be the leadoff batter. Nico Horner will bat second. Will Contreras at third. Ian Happ at fourth. Frank Swindle at fifth. Seiya Suzuki at sixth. Jason Hayward 7. Patrick Wisdom is 8. And we're going to start with Jonathan Villar, the DH, batting ninth. We might have some different things to do with Alderaan Simmons, but he's good against left-handers. Villar is good across the board. So we might look to see some more strategic play going into this and some substitutions, which we normally don't do a whole lot, but I think Football Manager kind of rubbed off on me in actually having me probably switch more than a normal. Let's look at the top prospects to start the year. I mean, Adley Rutschman's in here. Bobby Witt Jr. will be up at the MLB level. In real life, he got his MLB start here in a KC at third base, and I think for his first at bat got a hit. It was actually later on in the game. It was a clutch hit that ended up getting the Royals the win, I believe. You know, Gabriel Moreno, Luis Gil, Leo Rodriguez is in there. Hunter Green. Nick Lodolo. We're kind of familiar with him. We're going to see him probably sooner rather than later playing against the Reds. Byron Scott's there. Brendan Davis, there he is at 26. He's going to be down in the minors to start the season. Kind of going through. There's JD Melendez. Or MJ Melendez. Wow. There's Orvelis Martinez. We're familiar with him. DL Hall from the Orioles. So, and Jordan Grosjean's down there at 50. So we only have one in the top 50. And I would say that he is, in fact, probably our best prospect in our organization. If I had to rank this, it would be Brendan Davis would be 1. 2 would likely be James Trinos. 3 would probably then be Braylon Marquez. 4 is probably Jordan Wicks down here, the starter. And our 5th best prospect might actually be Chase Strom. If I had to guess. No, it'd probably be Cole Rotier. It's probably 5th. And then kind of goes to these guys down here, rounding up the top 10. So that's going to be it for this introduction video. Nothing crazy. 30 minutes to go through all the roster, my thoughts. And in the next episode, what this is going to be is a cut series. So no live commentary, or if there is live commentary, it'll be kind of in and out, and we'll fill in the blanks from there. And we'll kind of see how that goes. I would imagine it's going to be more so like it was with MLB 17. So expect that. That was a Cubs franchise as well. Kind of a different mission in that. It wasn't a rebuild. It was a how many World Series can we win type deal. There's also going to be some changes to this as well. We're not going to use meter pitching. What we're going to use is the ratings. So we're going to just pick the play or pick the pitch, pick the area, and then let the ratings kind of dictate where that goes. And then with the hitting, we're going to take out the PCI and we're going to have it more ratings based, where we just hit the ball and we at least swing at the ball and see what happens. So a little bit more ratings based, and we'll kind of can see what we can get. My timing still has to not suck. So there is some skill still associated with it, but we're still going to have to not suck. So that's going to be it for this, guys. Thank you all for joining me. Go ahead and leave a like below, comment, and subscribe. Tell me how excited you are to see this franchise, this rebuild, as we take the Chicago Cubs. And hopefully we can rebuild this in an easier and more realistic manner than what we have in the past. Later, guys.